Lagos is still trying to deal with the aftermath of last October's #EndSARS protest. Critically, much of that thought process is at the moment being channeled into the ongoing inquisition at the Judicial Panel of Inquiry into the atrocities of the now disbanded Police Special Anti-Robbery Squad. But as this fact-finding mission continues, what remains a point of contention between the Lagos state government, the Nigerian army, the promoters of the protest, and human rights organizations is just how many people were wounded and how many have died. And for those who continue to nurse their injuries, some of them life-threatening, where exactly are they being housed, and how much cover are they being provided as they make their way back to health? Is there a cover-up operation going on? To what extent is a safe house legal? That's if they exist at all. For a conversation around all of this, we're being joined by Nelson Ekujumi, a public affairs expert. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Nelson, good morning. Thank you, too, for joining us on the morning show. Very quickly, I mean, there were reports recently about a safe house where persons who were, who got gunshot wounds during the Lekki protests were being kept. And some of those persons have been talking. They've showed up at the sitting of the panel of inquiry in Lagos State. I mean, you are the civil rights activists out there. What is this safe house all about? And what is actually the truth? Are those persons really, persons who took part in the Lekki protest, or we just have a combination of persons who have other cases involved? If you may just help us clarify what the exact situation is.
Well, thank you very much. It gladdens my heart that the Lagos state government, just like other state governments, complied with the directive of the National Economic Council that they should set up Judicial Panel of Inquiry to look at abuses by SARS and, other related abuses or brutality by security agencies. And so far, so good. The panel in Lagos has been conducting its affairs in a transparent and, and credible manner that even all the counsel that have appeared before that panel have affirmed their confidence, their absolute, trust in the panel to dispense justice. And so far, so good. People who have been coming to the panel, don't forget, the panel is a fact-finding one to unearth the truth. So many people have come up with, different stories, but when you come to the panel, the first thing you are revealed is that you are cautioned and put under oath, and you are told or advised on the implication of coming to that panel to mislead the panel or to tell lies. And even when you come to the panel and you narrate your stories, it does not mean that in the performance of the panel's responsibility that the panel will just take your stories and act on it. The panel has to hear from the other side, and that is why at every sitting, even when respondents are unavailable, the panel adjourns in the interest of a fair hearing, because like we always say, there are always two sides to a coin. So it is not enough for you to come to the panel and narrate your story and you believe or you have that assumption that your case will be determined based on what you say. But rather the panel will listen to the other side and do it so and conduct its own investigation. A lot of persons have, even outside of the panel, have come up with so many stories. And, for me, I always advise them that, look, if you know your case is genuine, those one is opportune to get across to. This panel is in the interest of the society to heal wounds, and to dispense justice. If you know you have a case, please bring all the facts together and, approach this panel. And the whole world will listen, the panel will listen to you, and the panel will ensure within its pass that justice is done. But if you continue to carry out demonstrations or grant interviews, I was shot here, I have injuries here, and you are not availing the panel, then you are not doing not only yourself an injury, you are also injuring the society as a whole. Because a lot of, I've seen persons who have had accidents and, when they come, the panel, somehow will discover that, look, your case has already been decided by a court. of law. Why are you still coming to the panel? We have seen cases where persons will come to the panel and, they will not be available at the first sitting. At the second sitting, they will not be available. And the counsel will ask for the case to be struck out. And another counsel will stand up and say, oh, my Lord, in the interest of justice, in the interest that we want to heal wounds, can you please, in this collective interest of the society, adjourn this matter so that we'll give the petitioner another chance? And the panel has always obliged that. So if any person is coming out to say, oh, I was shot here, well, we can only get at the truth if you come to the panel and avail it of facts. But for you to engage in rumor mongering, in emotional, in whipping up emotions and sentiments, I don't agree that that is the right thing to do. And for me, it is not, it is not appropriate in any way.
Well, perhaps those you are accusing of rumor mongering are not sure about the panel. I want to know exactly what your expectations are, because there are those who feel like the whole situation is ultimately going to be a waste of time. There are those on both sides of the divide who question the legality of the panel in the first case. You'll recall that there was actually even a lawsuit instituted but then hastily withdrawn. What do you think about the panel as it's presently constituted in most states of the country? Do you think it's an exercise in futility?
Well, like I stated earlier on, I've been to the panel and I'm still an observer at the panel. And I've listened to even counsels from all divides who have appeared before the panel. And they have all spoken glowingly of the impeccable character of members of the panel. You look at the chairman of the panel, you look at other members of the panel, these are men and women who have distinguished themselves, in their chosen field. So if any person in his wisdom feels that the panel is an exercise in futility, well, I wish that person the best of luck. But for a lot of us who believe that the only way to, move societies forward is when we submit ourselves, to the rules, to the laws of the land. If we give ourselves the benefit of that, for somebody to sit down in his house and assume or believe that their panel will not achieve anything, well, that is not right, if you ask me. That panel even has the Nigerian Bar Association represented in all the panels. So if anybody is saying that, are we saying that even the Nigerian Bar Association, as well as other interest groups, even the media, is fully represented in the panel? Are we saying that all that we are going there to do is just drama, or we are wasting our time? Absolutely not. If we don't believe in the panel, don't forget, on the inauguration of the panel, even the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Olumide Akpata, was at the panel, and that was a vote of confidence on the panel that, look, we will ensure in our own little ways that justice is done. And so far, so good. Even the Nigerian Bar Association has not found any reasons, not only in Lagos, in even all other states, to come out and say, oh, these panels that have been set up by the state governments according to law are being teleguided, or their work is being interfered with. As we speak, I'm sure we're all aware that no notice of such has come out from any quarter. So if anybody says the panel that has been set up that we are all witnesses to, I've been at the panel. I've seen persons who said they were shot by police in 2017, and they have come to narrate their stories. And the panel has summoned the respondents to come and give their own side of the story. Are we saying such persons are wasting their time? We have seen cases of persons who have had, encounter with security agencies in 2012, who have seen this window of opportunity and have decided that, look, this is the time for me to seek justice. This is an opportunity for me to seek justice. Are we saying such persons should be denied their rights to seek justice just because some persons somewhere feels is a waste of time? No, absolutely not. I disagree.
Mr. Nancy Ekujumi, yeah, emotions are great. Emotions are running wild, but emotion is different from the law and the facts. The law doesn't look at emotions. The law was tested out recently. Although the police IG said he didn't know about it, but the legal department of the police force went to court as regards those panels, and he tested a particular clause in the law as regards that, which a lot of lawyers too have said, yes, there's a loophole here. But there have been two camps as a result of this. Maybe he's withdrawn that case from court now because of public reaction and public backlash. But I suspect that at some point very soon, that is still going to be tested again. So would you still be saying this when it's being tested again in the court of law as regards the legality of, having a panel of inquiry to look at police activities? Now, because the police is saying it is them, although some people are arguing that it's just some individuals of the police force. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on it is that I would, the Inspector General of Police did the right thing. Maybe the action of, taking the panel to court by the legal department was an act of overzealousness. I wouldn't be in a position to say categorically, because like you and I know very well that I'm not a policeman, neither do I work in the legal department or the public relations department of the police. So I cannot speak categorically on that, but I can, I can assume that the move by the legal department, whether it was authorized or not, was a wrong one. Because like I said earlier on, this panel is a fact-finding panel. It's like the Truth and Reconciliation panel that they had some time ago in South Africa. Even going there and listening to stories of people who have had, bitter experiences, that they have this opportunity, soothes my soul that, yes, this is what we need, that people should not be made, to suffer when their rights have been infringed upon. Even if we are not going to give them, compensation physically, the fact that they can tell their stories alone will go a long way, in healing that pain. So for me, if anybody is trying to test the law with regards to the panel, all well and good, and that is what we should encourage. But I know for a fact that the panel under law can only be constituted by the state government. That is why you can see that even the federal government has not constituted the panel, to look into this so-called alleged atrocities. Because where I say alleged is that it has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt before the panel. And that was why I said, even when you say, oh, I was slapped some time ago by a policeman, or I was brutalized 10 years ago, it is not enough for you to say it by word of mouth. The panel does not act based on your emotions. The panel does not act based on your word of mouth. The panel acts based on facts. You must be able to present facts to justify whatever you are saying. And even when you have presented your facts, don't forget, that's allegations you have made. You are making it against another party. And in the interest of fair play, the panel anywhere or any temple of justice will also reserve the right to invite the other party to come and give its own testimony. And that is what is playing out.
Well, Nelson, I asked you originally about safe houses and persons who claim that they are in safe houses and that they've been shot. And then there are the 15 persons that came to the panel of inquiry to protest. And I wanted you to explain to us, as someone who is an observer of the process at the Lekki panel of inquiry, what these safe houses mean, who is behind those safe houses, how did these persons get there, persons who claim, some of them said they were shot at the Lekki toll gate. One said he was shot at Ujudu. Another one said he found himself between Lekki and Ikeja, found himself somewhere in the hospital in Ikeja. We would like to have information about that, if you have any. And then the protesters that came to the panel of inquiry, is there any concern, in your view, should there be any, about the role of their lawyers, just in case they have lawyers who are representing them? Should a lawyer who is already representing a person before a panel of inquiry encourage such a person to still come to the same venue to carry placards and protest? These are questions I would like you to address. I see your concern about the panel of inquiry. You are supporting the panel of inquiry, fine. But there are certain details I need clarifications on.
Persons who have come to the panel to protest outside the venue of the panel, if they have any lawyer who has encouraged them to do that, I think that lawyer is not being sincere, is not being honest with them with regards to how they can get justice. Because the panel has been set up, the Nigerian Bar Association, of which any lawyer in Nigeria is a member should recognize the fact that this is a window that we can use to address whatever grievance we have. And for such persons, I wouldn't know what they want to achieve, other than the fact that, I'm not sure they are doing themselves and the society any world of good. Don't forget, on that particular day, I watched your station as well as some other sister stations, and I recognized that there were shootings involving persons on the streets versus policemen. There was, crossfire somehow. And I saw a particular instance where the journalist was interviewing some of those boys, and when the shooting started again, even the journalist had to cut short his interview, and had to take cover. So for me, any persons coming to the panel venue to protest is within his right, except if the panel's attention is drawn to that, and they give a standing order to the security agencies who are providing security at the panel that, look, this should be the boundary where people can take their actions. Because even in courts of law, you can protest within you can protest outside the venue of a court of law. I think it's allowed, but you are not allowed when you know that there's a court of law for you to come and hear your grievances or for you to seek justice, rather than using that medium. But you want to continue to whip up emotions because some person somewhere are beating the drum, and you believe that the only way you can get your own idea of justice is for you to whip up emotions. Because like I said earlier on, when you have a case, it must be substantiated with facts. It is not enough for you to come there whipping, I have been beaten, I have been beaten. There must be evidence to confirm that you have been beaten. And in confirming that evidence, it will not only be from your own side. Even if the need be, the panel or the courts, we also might have to, invite in experts in that particular field to come and, verify your allegations, even if they have heard from the other party. And if they are convinced, they know the appropriate thing to do. But for you to continue to tell your own story all by yourself, not waiting to approach or to employ the channel for seeking redress, I believe it means you have more than the interest of justice that you are pursuing. I believe you have some other agenda behind it.
Well, I completely appreciate your point and your optimism and belief in the panels, and also join you in commending the distinguished panelists. I'm particularly impressed with Justice Doris Okuobi. She's doing an excellent job. However, at the risk of sounding cynical, I have to return to the question that I asked you originally. What exactly are your expectations? Do you honestly believe that heads will roll? Because we have had panels before in our history and nothing has happened. One of my parents was the subject of part of the Oputa panel. After it was, found that he was served tea and died, nothing happened. A report was written, I seem to recall. Where is the report? Nothing happened. I mean, what do you really expect will happen?
Yes, thank you. I think you must recognize that life is lived on optimism. And you don't say because you failed yesterday that you predict that tomorrow will also portend failure for you. Let me give you an example. I had a friend some time ago who approached a lady. And the lady said, I'm making an analogy. The lady said, oh, men have disappointed me. I'm not going to go out with any other man again. And the young man told this lady that, look, my father was killed by a car. Will I say because my father was killed by a vehicle, I will not board vehicles to move from point A to point B? And as we speak today, that lady is happily married to this friend of mine. So you don't say because you have taken a route in the past and because you have not gotten results, even though you know that that is the appropriate way to go. And if that road, you believe that road will lead nowhere, if you now take another course of action, that is another that's another issue entirely. But if you know that in any society, when you have cases that people have ventilated their grievances And the government, in hearkening to that crisis, okay, the government said, we have accepted your demands. If people who have ventilated their grievances said they want A, and the government now said, yes, we have accepted your demand A, how come when the demand you made, when it has been accepted, you are now saying that the acceptance of that demand is not acceptable to you? That is what it means. So if the government, in its wisdom, has hearkened to the demand of those who said, set up a panel of inquiry to look into the alleged atrocities of this special anti-robbery squad, and right now the panel is sitting, and somebody somewhere is saying, I have no confidence, then it means in the first place you should not have engaged in that course of action calling for a panel of inquiry. And for me, I go to every issue with an open mind. I live my life based on that I'm here today is not by my power. A lot of people went to sleep last night. They didn't wake up this morning. I'm not God, but I'm opportune to be here this morning to speak to you, and I have that same optimism that come tomorrow, Saturday, by the grace of the same Almighty God, I'll wake up tomorrow to see another day. So for me, it's a life must be lived on optimism that, look, we can't allow the pains, we can't allow the setbacks of yesterday to continue to hold us down. Like I used to say in my house, that was one of the things I taught my family, that look, when anything happens, what the next step is, which way forward. If you brood about what has happened in the past, it will not change anything. If an Okuta panel has sat and the recommendations of the panel has not been implemented, the recommendations are there. Who tells you that come tomorrow morning, a government cannot wake up and take up that recommendation? Look at the issue of June 12th. When we had the June 12, 1993 presidential election, and it was annulled, when former President Olusegun Obasanjo was in power, he said we should not even mention it. A lot of us clamored for June 12 to be declared as Nigeria's Democracy Day. But lo and behold, almost 17 years after, almost 27 years after, in 2020, June 12 became a public holiday. That is the optimism of life that any serious society should live by. That is the principle. And that is how I believe we should have that optimism with regards to this panel. This panel has been set up. We have seen that these are men and women of impeccable character. These are men and women who have proven their stuff in their chosen career. And it builds on us. Except if we want to tell ourselves that we should lose faith in humanity and surrender ourselves that, look, let us just live our lives any way we want it to, which will not help us, will not make progress with that. So I have absolute confidence that this panel is going to dispense justice. I have absolute confidence that the panel will come up with something credible, that at the end of the day, we'll all be happy as a people.
I like that, the triumph of hope over experience. Thank you for that. I quite like that.
Right. I just want to talk to you about some members of this panels, their accounts being frozen. You want to say anything as regards that? Because somebody will have thought that since there are some members of the panel representing the young people that made this appeal in the first place, they should be treated with that accord and respect. But the accounts are being frozen. In fact, they didn't attend sittings for some days, and sittings were postponed because their accounts were being frozen. This is also something I want you to comment on.
Well, I'm sure you recognize that we operate a constitutional democracy. And to freeze an account of an individual requires the process of the court of law, requires the process of the law. And I'm sure you are aware that those accounts you have mentioned were not frozen by the executive by fiat. There was a process. And if anybody has any reason to challenge that freezing of the account, that person also has to go through that same process. And don't forget, when you open an account with a bank, the rules are clearly stated. Is this a current account? Is it a savings account? Is this a business account? If for any reasons the regulatory authorities find out that you have received funds from sources that they suspect, they have the powers under the law to introspect into that account. I think we should not deny them of that right. So if anybody has problem with the freezing of an account for reasons that the law, that the court of law has confirmed, the right to defreeze that account or challenge it also lies in that person going back to the courts to do the needful. So for me, I don't believe in whipping up sentiments on any issue. That is why when you take on a course of action, you must be sure that you have your facts behind you, that you are not going to run foul of the law. You can't say because I can't say because you are agitating for public good. You now park your car in the middle of the road and block the road and disallow other road users from accessing the road. That would be a violation of the laws of the land.
Mr. Ekujumi, yeah, I mean, when you say whipping up sentiments, I mean, I've become very quirky as regards that because the law is clear. Everybody has come out to state the law concerning this issue. Just like I stated the law to you initially, that it's total violation. You can't just come and freeze somebody's account. The law is clear. I'm sure you heard the submission of our former bank CEO of Standard Chartered about the laws as regards freezing bank accounts and the likes. It's clear. So it's your work.
That was an opinion. That was not an instrument of the law. That man was only voicing. Yes, he was the only person that can give an order is a judge. Even I that I'm speaking, I'm also making my own opinion on the matter. Just like we have said, a bank, even if a son comes here today and makes a statement, that is as good as an opinion. It only becomes a law when the court gives judgments. No lawyer, no matter your standing or any person, can make a law. The law can only be made by the National Assembly with the assent of the governor or Mr. President or the judiciary. So if anybody has said this is what the law says, it is an opinion. That is not the
law backing up the freezing of the accounts. Can you quote the law for me, please? The law backing up the freezing of the accounts.
Hold on. What I've told you is that the accounts were frozen based on a court order. Is that so? Is that so or not? And if an account has been frozen based on a court order, which authority can revoke that freezing? Is it not the same judiciary if it has sufficient grounds? We have had situations in this country where persons have been arrested and the security agencies have told the court that, look, we need to keep this person in custody for more than the constitutionally approved time because we need to conduct more investigation. And even when the executive, through the prosecutor, has asked for 90 days, the court said, I'm giving you 45 days. I'm sure if you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, it does not allow the detention of any person beyond 48 hours. But we have seen situations where security agencies have held people beyond a month based on the provisions of the ruling of a court of law.
So just to get you right, Mr. Nelson Ekujumi, it will be safe to say that all those that have complained about the freezing of this account, that have said it's a case of high-handedness, you are saying they are just whipping up sentiments, that the state has a right to freeze the account of this NSAS protest. That's what you're saying. I just want to get you right.
Not only about NSAS. What I'm saying is that the state has a right to freeze any account if it believes that the account has questions to answer. Okay. Whether it is NSAS sponsors or not is beside that. And also I said it very clear, and you must get it clear, that those accounts were not frozen by the governor of Central Bank. Neither were they frozen by the Nigerian police. They were frozen based on a court order. And like we have always advised, if the government has approached the court to freeze your account, the only way to unfreeze that account is also to approach the same court.
Okay, Nelson, don't let's split hairs over that. That's out there in the public domain, and people have different kind of opinions about it. But I kept asking you about the safe houses that people have been talking about. I guess maybe, just a moment.
No, I didn't hear you. Come again.
I said, look, people have different opinions about how those accounts were frozen and the morality or legality of that particular effort. So it's not for us to win an argument over that. But I had asked you twice about safe houses, but you kept ignoring it. So I assume that you don't have any information on that. But I would like to know, I mean, does it bother you that initially the government said nobody was shot, and now we have persons coming out to indicate that they were indeed shot, and that they sustained gunshot wounds at the Lekki toll gate? What's your reaction to that? You know, what do you think? Are you convinced that with those protesters coming to the panel of inquiry, it looks like indeed certain persons were hit by live bullets?
Ruben, I'm shocked that you said the government said nobody was shot and that some persons have come up to say they were shot. That confirms that they were actually shot. I want to ask, please, did you conduct an inquiry? Maybe you were a medical doctor that assessed them, and you can, through the assessment, you can identify.
I'm the one interviewing you. You cannot shift that.
No.
Look, if you have been following the story, you will know that the Nigerian military insists that live bullets were not used.
Yes.
And there are protesters who have come forward to say that, look, they were shot. And I want your reaction to that. It's not for you to ask me whether I conducted
because the way you threw the question is like you were speaking from the other side.
You will not teach me how to ask you a question. Yes. You are the guest.
You have the right to ask me a question. But what I'm saying is that the Nigerian military said they went there and they shot blank bullets into the air. And the Nigerian military also brought a BBC interview footage to confirm that. And some persons have now come up to say they were shot. And my appeal to such persons is that, please, this your story, please avail the panel. It is not for me to sit down here and say, oh, they were shot or they were not shot, because I wasn't at that Lekki to get, and I didn't identify people who were shot or not by mere word of mouth. But the window of opportunity has been opened for anybody who claims he or she was shot, whether in Lekki or in Mushi or in Okokomaiko, during the protests, to come to the panel to seek justice. And that is what I'm asking for from those persons. But for anybody to now say, because some persons have come out and said, we were shot at Lekki, then you want me to take that hook, line, and sinker, I won't do that. I must interrogate such statements that, look, if you were shot in Lekki, please come to the panel. If you were shot in Okokomaiko, come to the panel. If you were shot in Ikorodu, come to the panel. And come and avail the whole world your own story backed with facts. It is not enough for you to come showing bullet wounds, or maybe your leg has been amputated, and say, oh, I was shot in Lekki. How do we determine that? It is through the medical reports that you'll have, because I'm sure that person who was shot or who was wounded could not have treated himself. He must have been treated by a medical personnel, whether orthodox or otherwise. So if you have made this allegation, the only way you can help us as a society in healing these wounds is for you to avail the panel of the facts.
Well, thank you very much, Nelson Ekujumi, for joining us on the morning show. Thank you.